Hi, and welcome to IELTS Cast, episode 133. I am your host, Ryan. I am a career ESL instructor, and each week I bring to you my 18 years of language coaching experience to help you improve your spoken English. Please remember to hit that like button, and if you're feeling extra generous, I'd really appreciate you sharing this episode to your network. This week, we are looking at a Band 9 model response to a Part 2 cue card seen recently on the IELTS. I'll read this cue card to you now. Describe a person who lives in your area and always offers a helping hand to others. You should say who this person is, how he or she helps others, why he or she does it, and explain how you feel about this person. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to this week's Band 9 model response.
Now I will ask you to speak on a topic for 1 to 2 minutes. Start speaking now, please.
I'd like to talk about a remarkable individual in my community who consistently extends a helping hand to others, Mrs. Smith. She is a retired school teacher in her late 60s, and she and I have resided in the same neighborhood for the past 3 decades. Mrs. Smith's helpfulness is evident in many ways, but her most notable contribution is in tutoring local children after school hours. She voluntarily dedicates a few hours each day to assist students with their homework and provide additional support in subjects they find challenging. Furthermore, she has established a small community library in her home, where she lends books to children who may not have access to such resources otherwise. The driving force behind Mrs. Smith's generous actions is her unwavering belief in the transformative power of education. Having spent the majority of her life as an educator, she is passionate about ensuring that every child in our community has the opportunity to succeed academically. Personally, I am deeply inspired by Mrs. Smith's dedication and kindness. Witnessing her commitment to the community has instilled a sense of communal responsibility within me. Her selflessness serves as a reminder that even small acts of kindness can have a profound impact on the lives of those around us. Mrs. Smith is an exemplary figure in our community, and I feel fortunate to know such a compassionate and community-minded person.
Thank you.
All right, in this free preview lesson, you are going to be repeating the first paragraph of the model. I'll read this section again to you now just to refresh your memory. So the candidate starts their response by saying, I'd like to talk about a remarkable individual in my community who consistently extends a helping hand to others, Mrs. Smith. She is a retired school teacher in her late 60s, and she and I have resided in the same neighborhood for the past 3 decades. Okay, we will now start the speech shadowing exercise. If this is your first time doing a speech shadowing exercise, remember you should be speaking aloud as you listen. So you will first hear a portion of the sample, and then you will be given a pause within which to repeat what you have heard. And the point of the exercise is to try to adjust your pronunciation to sound as much like the model as possible. And in doing these exercises for just 20 minutes a day, I guarantee you will see noteworthy improvement in only a few weeks' time. Remember that a key step when doing these exercises is to keep a journal of any new language you come across. When you review this journal, you'll be reminded of these new items, and you can work towards including them in your own speaking. Don't forget that you can also access over 100 full repeat after me exercises by becoming a paid subscriber through YouTube. For $25 per month, you will have access to the full YouTube playlist that you can listen to as a podcast. So this means you can train for IELTS speaking while you do other things, such as during your commute to work or while you are exercising. Look to the description area of this episode to find a join link. Okay, let's go ahead and start this week's speech shadowing exercise. Enjoy.
Now I will ask you to speak on a topic for 1 to 2 minutes. Start speaking now, please.
I'd like to talk about a remarkable individual in my community who consistently extends a helping hand to others, Mrs. Smith. Who consistently extends a helping hand to others. A helping hand to others. To others. To others. A helping hand to others. A helping hand to others. Who consistently extends a helping hand to others. Consistently extends. Consistently extends. Who consistently extends a helping hand to others. I'd like to talk about a remarkable individual in my community. Individual in my community. Individual in my community. Remarkable individual in my community. Remarkable individual in my community. I'd like to talk about a remarkable individual in my community who consistently extends a helping hand to others. Mrs. Smith. She is a retired school teacher in her late 60s, and she and I have resided in the same neighborhood for the past 3 decades. For the past 3 decades. 3 decades. 3 decades. For the past 3 decades. And she and I have resided in the same neighborhood. Resided in the same neighborhood. 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 Resided in the same neighborhood. Resided in the same neighborhood. And she and I have resided in the same neighborhood. She is a retired school teacher in her late 60s. School teacher in her late 60s. 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 Her late 60s. Her late 60s. School teacher in her late 60s. She is a retired school teacher in her late 60s. She is a retired school teacher in her late 60s, and she and I have resided in the same neighborhood for the past 3 decades. If you have found these exercises helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review at iTunes, and be sure to sign up for my free newsletter at IELTS.com. Please also consider hitting that share button and telling your friends about this show. Thank you for tuning in this week, and join me again next week for another speech shadowing exercise.